for one of the most important horror movie franchises. Man, is this thing a mess. What's up, Universe, and welcome back to the web's first must-see comic and nerd culture show. Welcome to Comic Universe, guys. I'm your host, as always, not riding solo, because I got my boy Mikey Boy here with me. Oh, buddy. And, guys, we are reviewing the 2018 Halloween sequel titled Halloween. Now, as I stated, guys, in the intro, for being one of the most important horror movie franchises, slashers, without Michael, we probably wouldn't have gotten any of the others. Okay, and without some, and from the mind of someone so important to horror as a whole in Clive Barker, this franchise is a complete and utter mess. And honest to God, there's so many things about so many of the movies that I love that overall, it has all been fine for me. I've managed to enjoy almost every movie. And that includes Part 3. There's stuff about Part 3, Season of the Witch, that I myself do love. I definitely don't consider it a part, obviously, because it's not. But when watched as its own individual movie, it holds merit. Now, let me just start off with, we're going to give you the good, we're going to give you the bad, and we're going to give you the badass of this movie. All right, guys. So first and foremost, did I enjoy this movie? I did. Did I have a good time with this movie? I did. Would I say this movie is a must-see? If you're not a fan, then I would say that you could pass this up and you'll be all right. If you're a horror movie fan or a fan of the franchise, I say, yeah, it's a must-see. But overall, I think it was just okay. I don't want to sit here and say that it was the greatest, and I don't want to sit here and say it was trash, because there was so much about it I love, but there was so much about it just irked my soul. And so let's give you the good. Is it cohesive? Yes. It's a great story. The acting is done well. It gives you everything that you kind of need and want from a Halloween movie. Michael Myers being Michael Myers. I'm planning on doing a video about this, about the nature versus nurture, if you will, the madness of Michael Myers. But honestly, we go back to nature, essentially, with this film. If you don't know, this movie basically retcons every other Halloween movie, including the reboots, basically starting after the events of the first movie, which for me really sucks, because I love both Halloween 1 and Halloween 2 of the original versions, and I know not a lot of people like Halloween 2, but honestly, I love them both, okay? And I think they're so done well together, happening all within the same events at the same night. It's just, I think it's absolutely great. All right, but unfortunately, they get rid of Part 2, which I think is a detriment a little to this movie, and I'll get into that in a little bit. So yeah, it picks up as the sequel. Now we pick up about 40 years later, and we get to see, as we all know, Laurie Strode. She has kind of been preparing for Michael this whole time. She knew that he was coming back. He would never be stopped. And due to the trauma that she obtained from him, it kind of ruined her life in many ways. Yes, it built her as a strong, independent woman, but we learn that she has had 2 failed marriages. She had her daughter taken away from her. Up until the age of 12, she was, all intents and purposes, kind of ruining her daughter's life with all the rigorous training and preparing for Michael Myers. So, I mean, we kind of see the weatheredness of Laurie. And honestly, that was my favorite part of the movie. I wanted her so much more in this movie than she actually was. And it was really cool to see that in Laurie, because she, being one of the greatest heroines / heroes in horror movies in general, it was really cool to kind of see her in that role. And she's very Sarah Connor-esque, or Ellen Ripley-esque, if you will. She is a legitimate badass. She can handle herself in the face of madness, against the boogeyman, if you will. And we get that, and it's really, really good and really done well. And Jamie Lee Curtis, even in her old age and with her frizzy ass hair. She ages like fine wine. She is a badass mama jamma, if you will. And we get to see the rest of her family as well. We see that after her daughter was taken away from her, she kind of rejected that life. She didn't no longer wanted that life. She blames her mom for a lot of things and confusing and brainwashing her as a kid and this and that nature. And she's actually kind of kept her mom at an arm's distance, if you will, since the age of 12. And she's tried to put up barricades between her daughter and her granddaughter, if you will, Lori being the granddaughter, or being the grandmother, if you will, kind of making sure that their relationship never blossomed to what it possibly could have been, good or bad. And we see that the granddaughter, is rebelling against that. She wants to get to know her grandmother. She wants to have some influences. She's getting ready to graduate and whatnot, or she won a science award, I think it was, or valedictorian. She won some sort of award that Lori herself won as well as a kid. And, we get to see their reactions. And, of course, hijinks ensue, okay, and Michael finds his way back out. And we get your traditional, we get to see Michael be a force of nature. He just kills at whim, kills whoever. There's no rhyme nor reason to what he is. For good or bad, because I know there's a lot of people on the fence, and there's a lot of people on each side of the fence. When it comes to Michael Myers, some people like him, with the blood ties and connection and coming after, trying to kill out his whole legacy and lineage, if you will. And then you have the others that are just, I want him just to be this wrecking ball. There's no rhyme, there's no reason. Some people just want to see the world burn, right? So, and that's that. But as we all know, through the original franchise, we found out that they were related, that Laurie and Michael were related. In this film, that is debunked and proved to be just nothing more than rumor or hearsay or things that people said to make it all make sense, because how could a man just do all of this and have no reason? And we learn that they are actually not brother and sister. They get rid of that, retcon it, if you will. And throughout this movie, we get to see Laurie essentially role reversal and hunting Michael to a certain extent. And overall, I really enjoyed it. It was really good. I don't want to spoil too much, because I think if you're a fan of the series and a fan of the franchise, and I'm also going to do, I think I'm going to try to do a video that gives you all the Easter eggs, and I may mention a few here and there through this video as we get to the badass part. But I may try to do that for you guys. But first and foremost, like I said, you have the people on the fence, and sometimes I'm on one side of the fence and sometimes I'm on the other. So this movie's a little bit of a mixed bag for me. So overall, those are the good things about it. Now the bad things about it really comes down to just one word, really. Convenience. And it's just, or coincidence. That's a better word. It's just all coincidence. This movie all plays out due to sheer coincidence. And when you have coincidence on top of coincidence on top of coincidence on top of coincidence, and I know that, and again, one of the cool little Easter eggs within this film is the topic of fate. When she's in class, the teacher's teaching a story about fate, and some people believe it's it's in our fate to kind of follow this linear path, and some people say we make the decisions that put us on those paths and in a windy road, and you make your own fate and things like that. So it kind of plays yin and yang to coincidence, if you will, I guess. But let me get into some of the bad, if you will. Well, it's just sheer coincidence that, Laurie would stay in this damn town, for starters. Okay? It's sheer coincidence that these guys decide to make a podcast just before Halloween, try to interview him, okay, and just so happen they able to grab his real mask, if you will, and he just so happens to escape, if you will, and he just so happens to find the people who had the mask, who were still in the town for some reason after being kicked out by Lori on, gathering their information on her side of the podcast. She's still there, and he happened to find them and happened to find his mask. And even though all the information is in their trunk of where Lori is, you automatically assume that that's where he's going to get it, but he doesn't get it from there. And he just, happens to be able to wander around town and no one be able to find him, and he just so happens to stumble across, or there's a twist now, which I don't want to give away. There's a twist in the film where something that brings Michael and Laurie back together, that just so happens to be, and it just so happens to find Laurie, and it is just all started to weigh on me by the end, where it's just like it's just all circumstance, and it just really, really irked my soul. Like, it really, at some points, was just, I wanted a face palm, that it was just so convenient for this storytelling, and it was like connect the dots, and I was just like, in real life doesn't work like that. Like, just doesn't connect all the dots to where everything works out perfectly, into a linear path. Yeah, there's trips and stumbles along the way, and it just didn't go that way for this movie. And I was just so frustrated with that. And like, some people die in the movie, and there seems to be no like remorse for some of the people, like loved ones and things like that, and that kind of irked me. But overall, I was able to look past it due to the nostalgia factor and the Easter eggs within this film, and that's where the badass comes into this movie. And I'm just gonna give you a few, because I think I want to do another video of all the Easter eggs that I caught on too. And I'm just gonna kind of give you a few. For instance, the granddaughter, she is dating a boy. His name was Cameron Elron, or something to that effect. And I caught on to that being when they were at dinner and talking with her dad, that her dad was actually friends with his dad, and basically his dad was in the original movie and was the one beating up Tommy Doyle. Basically, he was the main bully of the school, and I just thought that was kind of cool. I'm sorry, Bubby. In the movie, we also get to see Laurie's granddaughter sitting in class in the far right-hand corner, all the way in the back by the window, just like her grandmother used to do. And we get to hear, again, the teachers talking about fate, which is the same thing that happens in the first movie. We also get to see, she looks outside the window and happens to stumble across her grandmother in the same manner that Laurie looked outside the window and stumbled across Michael Myers, and kind of giving that whole, maybe she's the monster, but not monster in terms of killing other people, but she is the one hunting Michael, if you will, for this movie. So it's kind of cool, that little Easter egg there. Also, the voice of the teacher is actually the same actress that played Laurie's friend in the first movie, that was babysitting, that died. So I thought that was kind of cool. That was a really cool little Easter egg. The way the kids walk up and down the street when they're talking about the story of Michael Myers and her grandmother is obviously directly pulled from that movie. You kind of get the same type of shots. And speaking of shots, the opening credits were so perfect. We got your Halloween theme, a little updated with the logos and the same colorization of the letters and the credits that are rolling by, if you will, from the original movie. And you get to see the pumpkin going from a deformed state to a real form state, which is really, really cool. Kind of showing that resurrection, if you will, of Michael Myers. Not to be confused with Resurrection, but, there happens to be a mention of Laurie is actually telling the story of Michael Myers to her family at the dinner table. And she's like, this shape. She keeps mentioning this shape. And that's a reference to the end credits of the first movie, where Michaels is actually just labeled as the shape. He's not labeled as Michael Myers. I thought that was really intense, really, really cool. Also in this movie, there's a scene where a father and son, when they stumble across the crashed bus of inmates just running around, and you see them through the headlights. That's also a reference to the first one. And also in that scene, the son and dad are listening to a country song, and that's the same song that Laurie was singing in the original movie. I believe it was called Come to Me or Come Close to Me. Yeah, that's what it was, Come Close to Me. And that's funny little Easter egg there on top of that, is that was a made-up song by Clive Barker and Jamie Lee Curtis in the original movie, because they could not afford the rights to any other licensed music. So that was kind of cool. Let's see. I mean, there was just so many little, again, and I think I want to do a whole video of those type of things, but you get some really cool role reversals, if you will. My favorite scene in the entire movie, this is a spoiler alert, is something that happens with Lori totally role reversing on Michael. She ends up falling off. I don't want to give the lead up to it, but she ends up falling off the roof, if you will, off the balcony, landing down. And Michael looks over and sees her dead body, and then is distracted by something in the house. And when he looks back, she's gone. Dude, I almost jumped out of my seat. That was by far the best. And that's, I don't want to say saved the movie because I was having a good time, but that makes me forgive everything that I disliked about the movie. And it just was so, so good. And, there's just so much more about this. Just Jamie Lee Curtis brings it home. I guess in the end, there's a lot of nostalgia, which is awesome and badass. Jamie Lee Curtis is amazing as always. She just wasn't in it enough. And some of the role reversals are really cool and save this movie. So if you're a fan of Halloween, go out and see this movie. I would give it a solid 4 out of 5 because it's not perfect. I do hate the fact that it's called Halloween and doesn't have a subtitle, or at least Halloween 2018 or Halloween 40 years later or something, or Halloween, I don't know, or it just bugs me that if this is the sequel, it's called Halloween, and it's not even in the same night. I don't know. Anyway, guys, go check this out. Let us know in the comments below if you've already seen it, if you enjoyed this movie. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe on this video. The 31-day Halloween Horror Movie Challenge is continuing. This is going to be dropped early. And actually, since it came out on the 19th, it should be technically my 19th movie I've watched, but there's a few movies I haven't posted the reviews yet of that challenge, so this is actually going to be out of place. Anyway, guys, so check out our 31 Halloween Horror Movie Challenge playlist, guys. All of our reviews for all the movies we've been watching. Let us know what movies you guys have been watching. And, guys, until next time, I'm C-Dubs, and I'll see you in the universe. Peace.